I captured a lot of great photos and videos with the Sony ZV-E10 in the past 11 months of ownership. But after a recent trip to Korea, my experience with the camera, I realized maybe I really want to upgrade, and so I did. And here are my 4 main reasons. Number 1, the button to switch from P to V to S and Q. I'm a hybrid shooter, so I switch between photo and video very frequently. On the ZV-E10, to switch from video to photo, you need to go through S and Q first. It sounds very nitpicky when just talking about it, but when you're on a trip and you try to capture things as they happen, you'll realize that the experience is very annoying. Plus the fact that the menu and the overall responsiveness of the ZV-E10 is not really that fast. Fun fact, the ZV-E10 Mark II now has a switch for this instead of a button, so you know it's a big deal. Okay, so number 2 is no separate settings. Kinda related to the first one, but when you're switching from photo to video, the settings, especially the exposure settings, go with the mode. So for example, I'm on video, which is my primary use. I'm typically shooting 24 frames per second, so shutter speed must be 50. Then aperture and ISO is adjusted according to that. When I switch to photo, the 50 shutter speed sticks around. So now I have to manually change it to around 125 or 160, which then means I have to adjust my aperture and or ISO to have the correct exposure. And all this takes time, so when you're on a trip and trying to capture things spontaneously, you might miss out some shots. Now, I discovered a workaround, which is to use auto. When you use auto, it has its own exposure settings, so you don't have to manually change it. And when you go back to video, your manual settings will remain on its video state, so you can immediately shoot. Now, shooting auto works most of the time, but I much prefer shooting manual or aperture priority. Fun fact, the cameras higher up on the bracket, a little bit more expensive, actually has separate settings for photos and video. So that's when you know people are also looking or willing to pay for that feature. Number 3 is lack of IBIS or great digital stabilization. Okay, I know for mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras, at this price point, there might be no other option that offers that. But here's what happened for me, at least. I was finally ready to upgrade from the kit lens. And after weeks and even months of research, I realized there's not much option for on-the-go video shooters for ZV-E10 because most of the lenses out there don't have internal stabilization. When you combine a lens without stabilization and ZV-E10, a body without stabilization, you get dizzying videos. For photos, it's doable, but for videos, it's really bad. So what are those great lenses, you're asking? I was thinking about like Sigma 18-50, Viltrox 27mm. Heck, even the expensive Sony 16-55 2.8 doesn't have OSS or stabilization. So this is why many people or reviewers say that the ZV-E10 shines more as a stationary or B cam or studio cam because it takes great quality 4K video, but the moment you go on the go or like moving videos, there's bad stabilization, there's rolling shutter. So yeah. And number 4, the last one, is I think a nitpick, but you max out at 4K 30 frames per second. It would have been sweet to have 60 frames per second because that way you can shoot 60 frames. And maybe by doing that, you minimize the shakes and you can get usable footage for your edit. But then that's a whole another discussion because that would dictate your edit and the shots you're going to take and the style of edit you're going to make. So is the ZV-E10 bad? I don't think so. I actually considered not selling this and just keep it as B cam, stills cam, studio cam, but I don't have the luxury for that. I need to recoup some money for this expensive upgrade with the camera that I'm using to record this video now. So I had to let this go. When I bought this 11 months ago, from my research, I knew that the A6700 was a better fit for me. However, I wasn't willing to pay that price at that time, so I settled with this, and that's how the story goes. Now, I don't regret owning the ZV-E10 because in those 11 months, I was able to shoot some good stuff, and this thing has taught me what I really need or want from a camera. So yeah, that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one.